We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today. Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Supermac and Gibbo on a Thursday. Delighted to say I'm joined by the two legends. Good evening, gents.
Hi, Steve. Hello, John.
Hi, boys.
Great to see you, lads. And just want to give a big thank you to everybody who came to Laurel's Theatre today. It was a pleasure to do a little bit of reading down there on stage of a couple of monologues, which, again, were written by an anonymous playwright who has donated the plays to Dementia Matters. So we went down to Laurel's today and performed it this afternoon, and it was fantastic to be down there. It's a great little setup in Whitley Bay if you've never been before. And it was nice to meet a couple of people from NUFC Matters as well. Big thank you for coming down and showing your support. And looking forward to staging that properly. It's going to be it's going to be my directorial debut. I'm going to be directing that with Alison Stanley down at Whitley Bay. So looking forward to doing that. But thanks to everybody who came up and said hello and gave us your support. But on to Newcastle United. They were on the stage last night, John, at the City Ground in Nottingham, and they passed their audition, albeit on penalties.
Well, yes, the staggered past the audition, if you like. I mean, you know, everybody's been saying that we need new signings. We haven't made a significant signing this summer, etc., open arms, teetering on the verge of it being a diabolical summer. But we have made a good signing this summer, and the signing's been Lady Luck. And by Jove, thank goodness we did, because in the 3 games we've played this season, we've played Southampton, and we played 11 men against 10, and somehow won 11 men against 10 for an hour. We then go down to Bournemouth, where we survive the injury time when they score a winner, which is chalked off, and Joe Linton might have been sent off. And then last night, we score in 18 seconds, but still go to penalties and are 3-1 down on penalties and win. Now, tell me that we haven't signed Lady Luck and that's the best signing we could get, because all that happened. And then what comes next? I'm waiting for the draw. And the first 4 balls out are going to be Champions League sides who are going to be at home. And I'm thinking we are certain to get one of the Champions League sides, and we've got to play away. We survived that. All the balls are disappearing, and they're getting less and less until there's 4 left. And I realise Chelsea's still left, and I think we are going to get Chelsea away. This is going to be a disaster. And what do we get? We get Wimbledon. Absolutely wonderful. Lady Luck, love her to death. She's hitched the lift on the side of the go-kart, and if she stays with us, who needs any good signings? Never mind about Tonali, who I'm being flipped, who was absolutely wonderful and will get the old hackneyed phrases. He'll be like a new signing. Lady looks like a new signing. We haven't had her on our side for ages, and long may she be with us, because by Jove, we need her.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I mean, last night it was a great cup tie, Mal. I mean, I'm trying to stay upbeat and positive about Newcastle's start of the season. We've got 4 points in the bag, and now we're through to the next round of the cup against, you know, another Premier League team, and we can't underestimate Nottingham Forest. You know, they're not bad, not a bad team. I thought, looking at the game last night, I thought Elliot Anderson obviously, you know, knows Newcastle United inside out, certainly knows Howe's tactics inside out. And I thought for great periods of the game last night, I thought Elliot Anderson did a wonderful man-to-man marking job on Bruno. So I think, you know, Forest probably deserved a lot of credit. We got off to a great start, and they could have collapsed like a pack of cards, but didn't. The big mistake, of course, Forest made was not bringing Chris Wood into the fray early doors. He would have got goals galore. But anyway, moving on from that, Malcolm, quickly, what was your views on last night's game?
It was a great start, but I always go back to the tale I was told when I joined Arsenal, and that it was a lad called Richie Powling, and it was his debut, and from the kickoff, he made a run forward, and he suddenly found the ball at his feet in the D, and he struck a shot, and in it went. And so Arsenal were a goal up within seconds, and for the rest of the game, they were locked in their penalty area, defending like mad to secure the win. And Tubby Powling got the absolute rollicking of a lifetime from the manager at half time. Why? Because he had scored too early. and they're sorry, John.
He'd upset them by scoring early.
Yes, yeah. And there is a sense to this, a real piece of footballing common sense that you score right at the very start of it all, and you're under pressure to defend that 1-goal lead. And what it vitally needed was the second goal from Newcastle, and then I think that would have killed it off a bit. But at 1-0, all the time, Forest are believing that they can get back into it and get something out of the game. And so, yeah, we scored too early, is the theory that, and that goes back to Bertie Mee, good heavens above. There's a name to conjure with. But there is a sense to it. And it's not the first time that we've seen it from Newcastle when they've scored early, that they struggle sort of pretty much for the rest of the game. It was a shame that Tonali didn't stick the one in a couple of minutes afterwards. That would have sort of pretty much put things very much in the favour of Newcastle. Yeah, Forest, I think they're an improving side. And they can play some nice stuff at times, but I just don't feel that Newcastle are gelling at the moment. I get the impression that they defend well, and once they've taken the ball off the opposition, then the problems start. I thought Joe Linton, I think he's had a very poor season so far. The opening to the season has been very, very poor for him, and I think he's been a bit of a liability, in all honesty. And I think that was sort of headlined by the fact that he missed his penalty in the way that he did last night.
Yeah, I think the thing last night, boys, that emphasised everything for me. Yes, I agree with what Steve says that, Forest could have capitulated. They didn't. They played some good football. But let us be truthful. The ambition of the two clubs was shown before the kickoff. Newcastle put out an absolutely strong side because they want to try to win the League Cup this season. Nottingham Forest made it obvious that their one ambition this season is to stay in the Premier League. They made 10 changes. The only reason they didn't change the whole team is that Elliot Anderson was so desperate to play against his old club that they allowed him to do that. So he was the one guy that was left in the side. They made 10 changes, We are playing against a side with 10 changes, so we're playing against Nottingham Forest reserve side. We'll go 1-0 up in 18 seconds, and then we'll find ourselves in a penalty shootout and 3-1 down.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not a good performance. Whatever way we look at it, that game was set up for us last night, and we didn't take advantage of it. Forest weren't bothered about it. The team selection told us that. All the good players, the guy that's just got picked for England today, the goalkeeper Matzels, the Langer, the winger that tortured Byrne last time they met up at St James. All these lads, Chris Wood, your favourite, Steve, all these lads on in the starting lineup, they were almost saying, okay, if you want it, Newcastle United, you can have it, because we are going to get the results in the league, and we are putting that as our priority. And we still didn't do it. And let's be truthful, guys. We have played 3 very average Premier League sides whose only ambition is to stay in the league. Southampton, newly promoted, Bournemouth, good enough to be around mid-table, but they're not going to make Europe. And Nottingham Forest, who showed in their team selection only want to stay in the Premier League. We've played 3 average sides, and we've been good in patches, but only in patches. We haven't played well over 90 minutes. And what's happened, when we were at our best, guys, in my humble opinion, it's when we play at a good tempo and press high. Now, in these 3 games, we haven't done that.
No, that's very true.
Why haven't we done that? Why haven't we done that? Why?
We're strangely being one-paced in my mind. I'm not meaning the quickness, the forwards. That is a great question. And I look at Newcastle United, and that's what concerns me, that we're not doing what we do best. Now, maybe we got to a situation last season with results the way we are. Let's be truthful. If we are going to make the Champions League, and that has got to be the ambition, if not into Europe and perhaps win a domestic trophy, then we've got to sign this window, and it's looking increasingly like we may well not sign this window. We've not only got to say, but the squad for me is thin. The squad is thin. We have not addressed 2 major problems. One is a right-sided centre-half. We still haven't got one in. This Gay thing has gone on for so long. It's like pulling teeth out with a pair of pliers. It is absolutely desperate. And
it's almost become a joke, hasn't it?
Oh, totally. And we have wanted an outside right for about 4 transfer windows. We bought one, Minter, and then sold him before he played for us, because we got into a blind panic over needing to sell on June the 30th. We've got 2 outside lefts of quality in Gordon and Barnes, and no outside right. What's all that about? What's all that about?
Yeah, and if you watch last night, Barnes as an outside left, all he ever did was cut inside. Why can he not go down the line on the right-hand side?
Because there's this obsession, Malcolm, isn't there, nowadays, and Newcastle have got it too. You play wingers on the wrong side. You know, if they've got a good right foot, you play them outside left so they can drive inside.
If you play Barnes on the right-hand side, being right-footed, that he's going to get good crosses over.
Yeah. This seems to be a tactical thing that's become an obsession, Malcolm. That now your wingers, in your day when I was covering them and you were playing, your wingers had, if you were outside right, you had a great right foot. Outside left, had a great left foot, like Hibby or like Barrow on the other side. And they got down and give you width and got the ball in. Now, modern day football, the 2 wingers, you play them on the wrong foot so that they come inside and try to finish. And at the moment, the squad for me, Steve, and you warn about what's wrong, it looks a bit imbalanced. You know,
is it because or is it a coincidence? Let's put it that way, that we have had someone come in, that the club have brought in, fitness and performance coach, who and somebody who specifically has to look at the injury side of things to stop the injuries happening. Do you think that there's been maybe some tinkering in what Eddie Howe does, and maybe that's why people don't look as happy? Do you think that could be it? I mean, this is hypothetical. This isn't based on any knowledge or anything, John, but is that a possibility?
Well, it is possible. I mean, there's something not quite right so far. And it's almost like, I don't want to be too negative, because here we are 3 games in, and as you said earlier, Steve, we're unbeaten. We've got 4 points in the league, and we're through to the next round of the League Cup. I don't want to be too negative, but they were against average sides, and now we're about to start playing the big beasts, the European sides, starting with Spurs on Sunday. So that needs a step up. But the whole summer, we have lived in a fairy tale land, haven't we? Since the takeover, it's been a magic carpet ride. It's been wonderful. We see off relegation in the first season. The second season, we're 4th, we're into the Champions League, and we're into a Wembley Cup final. Last year, we're beating Paris Saint-Germain and playing in the Champions League. We've been on a magic carpet ride, but all of a sudden, the carpet seems to have frayed a little bit at the edges. What have we had this summer? We've lost Amanda and her husband, dearly loved by the fans as the link between the boardroom and the fans. We've lost her. We've had Eddie using the excuse of the England link, that we might lose him to England, to let us hear how worried he was about how much clout he was going to be allowed to have in the club in the future with a new director of sport and a new fitness guy. We've had Gordon linked with Liverpool. We've had Isaac linked with everybody because of 25 goals. We've had Bruno with his 100 million release clause. We've had the Trippier situation where he hasn't looked too happy, etc., etc. We've had the failure in the transfer market so far this summer. It's been little things, guys, but it hasn't been a positive summer, has it?
No, it all adds up. I mean, Mark Byers is saying, do you think it's a coincidence, that something seems to be off since Amanda Staveley left? Could there be substance to that connection, Malcolm? I mean, I think what John's pointed out is probably more likely. It's a combination of different things. I mean, in life, people don't like change. At football clubs, people don't like change, and there's been a hell of a lot of it over the summer, Mal. And the one thing that hasn't been changing really is personnel.
Sure. And I think you make, both of you make a very strong point, that there is a big hole at the club, and it's been left by Amanda Staveley. I think she was a great front woman for the club, and was terrific when it came to PR. And now there's nobody filling that gap. It's not being filled at all, and there's no real communication whatsoever, and so the club is lacking. The club is lacking off the field, but it also seems to be lacking on the field as well, because at the same time as I speak about off the field, just watching the last 3 games that we've played this season so far, it seems that we're back to this thing that I've been pointing out for pretty much since Eddie Howe first came. He seems to have a plan A, but no plan B at all. That when it's not quite working out in the field, and even when we were 1-0 up last night, it was getting to a stage where things weren't working. We were 1-0 up, but we were struggling in so many different areas on the pitch. It needed a change, and I'm not talking about substitution necessarily. But what it needed was a change of tactic, a slight change of positioning, maybe. And and just looking to do things in a different way. But no, we just kept trundling on, same old, same old, same old. And that's not good enough for this level in particular, because not only are the players highly skilled, but they're really, really sharp. Mm-hmm. They think about the game in a very deep manner. They see things happening, they react to it, and they know what to do. So you need to be right on the ball. And last night, after about 10 or 15 minutes, I felt that it needed a change. It didn't need to be a change of personnel at all. It just needed a tactical change. What you mentioned, for example, that there on the left wing, it kept coming inside all the while. Well, why not just say, "Oi, if you're going to do that, no, you go down the line, play on the right-hand side." You know, and it gives it a new and a different dimension. Isak's got to rethink his game because he's now got a right-footed winger who's going to be getting crosses in, not cutting inside all the while onto his left foot because he's right-footed. So there are numerous things that's there at the disposal of the manager. It never happens. It does not happen. It's same old, same old, same old. And we keep getting time and again into these situations whereby it stops working. And we don't seem to have an answer.
I mean, one of the things you mentioned, Steve, was, why has things gone wrong? That's not quite the phrase, because I haven't gone humongously wrong. We're unbeaten. But why have they not been as good as perhaps we were expecting? And you know what? Football boils down to players. Players are the game. If the players are good enough, we are good enough. If they're fresh enough, we're fresh enough. Well, you can have all the side effects, and they do affect players and what happens in the boardroom and what the manager thinks. Is he worried about his city? But good players are what the game's about. And you know what's been wrong with Newcastle, Steve? You're saying, well, what's been wrong with Newcastle? I'll tell you what's been wrong with Newcastle. We haven't bought well or sold well this summer. We've done neither of the basic things that football clubs have got to do. We haven't brought in quality. We've brought, all right, people say we've signed 5 people. Have we? We've signed a free transfer guy, Lloyd Kelly. We've signed a cover centre forward for Peanuts, who's going to be good in the future, but he's not going to change the whole dynamic now. And we've got a goalkeeper out of Forest that Howe didn't want and only took because it was the only way they would take Elliot Anderson and get us out of the claggy, and he's going to be moved on before he plays. And the other goalkeeper is a 37-year-old free transfer, which is hardly likely to terrify Nick Pope under any circumstances. We have not bought significantly this summer. And I tell you what else we haven't done. We haven't sold. What's happened to Newcastle? We can't sell people. The 2 people we've sold this transfer window was Blind Panic, which was the 2 guys we sold because the accountants told us.
And players that we didn't want to lose, John.
Correct. Blind Panic that we didn't want to lose. But we haven't wheel and deal. Now, I know the club answer to that. The club will come back when this window's shut and they're justifying their actions or their lack of actions, if that's been the case. They'll come back and say, well, financial fair play. That may be so. But I tell you what, other clubs have found wiggle room. Other clubs like Aston Villa have craftily sold people and brought other people in and are where they are. they have negotiated their way around it. We found ourselves in a blind panic on June the 30th and sold 2 players we didn't want to sell and got a goalkeeper in we didn't want as a consequence. And at this moment, we have 6 goalkeepers, for goodness sake. And there's only one of them, Pope, that we actually want.
So we're potentially chasing another. We're chasing another one.
Hey,
and
John,
John,
have we lost? We have not just lost the art of signing people; we've lost the art of selling people. We need people out, and we don't get people out. You know, and I don't want to be. I don't want to rain on Paul Mitchell's parade because I don't know the guy. He's got a good reputation and he may turn out to be the absolute blessing at Newcastle United. But I tell you what, we're about 36 or less hours off the transfer deadline window and we've moved nobody out and nobody in. It's looking horrendous for him right now because he's the man that's got to do that, not Eddie Howe. He might say he wants to hold on to everybody, but the deals are done by Paul. And Paul at the moment is, I've got to say, as we sit here, and there might be huge relief to come in the next 36 hours, but as we sit here, he has fallen short. And Newcastle United have had a terrible window. And there's no fancy way of dressing it up. We have had a terrible window so far, and it's rapidly running towards its end.
Two sides of every story, Mal. Paul Patterson says, I can't believe what I hear at times. Covered the injury-prone Wilson, bought a centre-back to tide us over until the 2 injured lads get back, and we've made attempts to sign a £60 million defender. Paul's seen it through a different pair of glasses, Mal.
Sure. Yeah, I see that. The point I was about to make was because the whole of this window for me has been upset by what happened at the end of June. That we finished up having to sell desperately having to sell 2 players who we actually didn't want to get rid of. We wanted them to stay. Now, what I've not seen is the question being asked, how the hell did we get in that situation and why didn't we resolve it a week or 2 weeks before? Why wasn't it sorted out then? Why was it all left? Because all of a sudden, the first that we really knew about it on the financial side that caused the problem was headlines in the newspapers. And we were left with about 2 days in which to resolve the whole problem.
I think, Malcolm, what bothers me as well, Malcolm.
Sorry, John.
What bothers me as well, Malcolm, is that we left that desperately late. When we felt we had to bring £60 million in, or we might get deducted £10 points. So we're panicking, we're blind panicking, and at that stage, guys, we were willing to sell anybody. We offered Gordon to Liverpool, one of the blue chip players. We were willing to sell anybody because we're in a blind panic. Now, if I may take that forward, Malcolm, to right now, 36 hours before the close of the transfer window, I think we are in the right panic yet again. Because why? We've spent a month negotiating for Gay. A month. And because we wanted to be cute and we wanted to do it our way, they have said, I know, they have said from day one we want 70 million because they've got to play some more money on to Chelsea. Pay the money up front and you've got them. Don't pay the money up front and you haven't. We've tried to be cute. You know, we'll give you 60 and we'll give you something tomorrow and something when the wind blows in a different direction and something else when day turns to night and all these conditions to be clever. And what's happened in the meantime? I got a phone call about it last night while I was celebrating us getting through. And it said Newcastle United are going to miss out on Gay. And they've only got themselves to blame because they could have done the deal a month ago or 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago, but they've kept trying to get the deal so much over. 5 million in the end is what the difference is. They were squabbling about 5 million. And then what happens? They buy they buy a replacement called Riyadh from Real Betis, and he gets injured in the first game he plays. So now
Yes.
they're saying, well, we don't have to sell him. We're not skint like you were on June the 30th. We don't have to sell him, and we're not going to sell him. And by the way, while we faff about, they make him skipper on day one of their Premier League season. Then they play him in the League Cup. So even if we sign him, he's cup tied and he can't play for us in the Cup. And we don't get the message that they're not going to just lie down and have their tummy tickled by us and that the guy's going to come here. I don't think now, unless there's a rapid change, we will not get this guy at least until January if we want to revisit it in January. And you know what? A month of negotiations, which unfortunately for Newcastle have been totally in the public eye because that's been to the advantage of Crystal Palace. So they've allowed it to be that way. If we do not get this fella, how much of a custard pie is on our face?
Yeah, I would agree 100%. Halfway through the show already, lots of questions coming in. We won't get through them all tonight because we've got a couple of other things to discuss, including a fence that's appeared at Newcastle United. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. All excursions included, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, a 2-crew driver and courier. It's a local family company, and you can find them at www.unitedgrouptravel.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you want to help support the channel, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up under the video. That's the like button. It does help us grow. And click the share button. Help share to your social media. If you want to join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month, then hit the join button under this video today. We also help the food bank on this channel. Visit nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. It takes you to the match day bucket where you can donate some money virtually. Some events for your diary in aid of Dementia Matters. The Long Sands will be reforming and be supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band at the Cluny in Newcastle on Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets are £15 pre-sale from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January 2025. Tickets available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. And an evening with the Entertainers takes place on the 24th of January 2025. Telephone the box office 0844 249 1000 or visit the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge at the Gateshead Leisure Centre is now open. 7 talk-ins for £99. Joe Allen will be hosting talk-ins with Lee Clark, John Anderson, Steve Howie, Darren Peacock, Supermac, Steve Watson, John Beresford, all between the dates of January and July. £99 for 7 talk-ins, newcastlelegends.com. And don't forget, you can subscribe to our NUFC Matters fanzine, £20 for 4 issues with all proceeds going to Dementia Matters. If you live overseas, it is £50 for 4 issues. To order now, go to newcastlelegends.com. And the good news is Gibbo will also be doing the Magpie Lounge with Joe Allen at Gateshead Leisure Centre. More details will be released about that, but £99 for 7 tokens with all the legends should be a really good value for money. But more details to come about that in due course. Going to the match is a great experience for all of us, and getting a chance to go to St James's Park is wonderful there. If you're going this weekend and you happen to go into the East Stand, you are going to come across this unless something is sorted out pretty damn quick. I did show this to the guys before we came on air, so it's not a complete surprise to them. That is a little parking area. And those of you who, have walked around the ground many times will be, you'll know where that is. That little street, of course, leads down to the Strawberry. There's also a sign being plonked on Newcastle United's door: no parking, private land. It seems like Newcastle's got a bit of an issue, John.
Oh, I mean, it doesn't bear thinking about. It is an absolute utter nonsense. We were talking beforehand, and Malcolm made the point about the Freemen own Newcastle United, the ground, and we have a lease over it. And then suddenly we see something like that, which it's very easy to be flip about, but it is a serious matter with a match on Sunday coming up and all these sort of problems and that can produce. And Newcastle, did they not know about it? Did they not do something about it? I mean, there's questions got to be asked in the Newcastle boardroom. I mean, I'm waiting. I'm waiting to turn up at the ground about midday on Sunday and find that the centre circle's roped off because somebody's claimed that is a parking
No,
spot.
John, you're going to you'll get arrested for trespass.
I mean, it is an absolute nonsense. And you know what? We've just been talking about Newcastle United having had this magical carpet ride, all of a sudden being on a slightly irritating summer where lots of small things appear to have gone wrong. And here's another one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give the guy any name checks on you because obviously this is a situation which I would imagine is now in the hands of lawyers and solicitors. But I'm quite entitled to put these photographs up, which have been taken a day and put onto the internet by Newcastle United Supporters Trust, who have made this quite clear. I'm also going to stick in the chat because the problem we have with this, Malcolm, is that probably could be a little bit of an issue with regards to health and safety. We know what people are like with health and safety these days and accessing stadiums, etc. I think if anyone's concerned, and this is something which I've seen the Supporters Trust put out there and the Supporters Club, there's a couple of email addresses there, which I think you may well want to email. Just get in touch with the Lord Mayor or get in touch with the government, the local MP, Nick Kemp, and just make your feelings quite clear that this potentially is a bit of a health and safety issue and it needs to be removed. But Malcolm, it's crazy, isn't it? If Newcastle have the oversight of potentially missing out on a small strip of land like that, and now we've got this sprouting up. I don't know whether the game could go ahead. I mean, it could be as simple as that. They might have to shut a stand. I mean, who knows?
No, I wouldn't think so. Looking at the wooden fence that's been put there, and there's a notice only on one door, then I think it's a very small plot that we're actually talking of, and so there will be ways round it. Of that, I'm pretty sure. It's going to be an inconvenience, and probably no more, I think. But at the same time, how has it suddenly reared its head after 130 odd years of Newcastle United's existence, and it seems nobody's ever heard about this?
I wonder whether the previous owner maybe's sold it to somebody else.
I mean, for it to come up now at this precise time, and not any time under Ashley or before that when John Hall.
Sure, but also, John, surely they would that the first thing to do is make an appointment to go and talk to the hierarchy at Newcastle United and say, look, here are the documents, and the only way that this can be acceptable is if you've got the right documents. If you haven't, on your bike. But if you've got the right documents, then they've got the club have got no alternative but to actually negotiate and purchase it from them.
I mean, it's a farce. It really.
Yes, it is.
Who on earth?
But how has it suddenly reared its ugly head now? I just don't understand.
The problem is that's such a narrow bottleneck to start with, right? That is such a narrow battle, and that's the problem. It's
but for the game on Saturday, I'm sure that it's such a small tiddly area that there will be ways round it.
Yeah,
I've now found out.
Everything will go ahead.
I've found out, having seen that, I've found out now why Newcastle United have not gone the extra $5 million to sign Gay, because they're keeping it in reserve for buying a plot of land outside their own ground. So the whole strategy of the summer makes sense to me now.
Yeah, if it was anywhere else other than St James Park, it would be worth 2.5 knicker.
Yeah.
But because it's there, we
laugh about it, but it's actually staggering how it's just come to light now.
Yes.
I mean, whoever owns
it very suspicious, John.
Whoever owns it, the wonderful way of bringing Newcastle United to heel is to suddenly put a fence around it and say, "What are you going to do about that?" But I mean, dear God, now, I mean, it is absolutely nonsense. But obviously, the whole reason why we've had such a cautious summer in the transfer market, we've been waiting to negotiate with this parking space.
As somebody put in the chat, here's us trying to build a defense, and someone's not a fence. So we wait and see what happens with that. Plenty fence jokes coming in. People saying they're going to put claims in for Spelks and all sorts. So we'll wait and see. I do want to ask you about this. Tim Cairns, good evening, mate. He says, question for the lads. What did they make of the revamped League Cup draw to give benefits to the European teams? I find it unearthly. I just simply put on Twitter last night, this is ridiculous. And it is. It is. Yeah. What? Because you qualify for Europe, you get an easier draw in the Carabao Cup. What? I'm fuming, Malcolm.
Yeah. I think it's utterly ludicrous. It really is.
I would have been fuming if we'd got one of them, but having got Wimbledon, I'm just cruising. But quite seriously, I mean, the reason why it has happened, and I don't think it's a good enough reason, but it tells you exactly where the League Cup fits into priority in modern day football, is because when the next round of the League Cup comes up, because of the new way of running the Champions League, the format's totally changed with extra games and extra teams, etc., etc. There is not room in that allocated space for the Champions League games and the League Cup, the next round of it, for the two sides to play each other, because there wouldn't be, because it's been split, without going into technical, it's been split over about a fortnight. And if you got two sides in the Champions League playing each other in the League Cup, they wouldn't be able to find a date because their priority is the Champions League. There would be no date available to them. So keep them apart and everybody can play. But it is a nonsense. It is a nonsense if you want to take the league, for the Football League, if they want their competition to be taken seriously. We are trying to take it seriously because we're trying to win it. But quite frankly, the Champions League will always wag the dog. And the Champions League has got the games there that don't allow, if two Champions League sides play each other in the next round of the League Cup, they can't find a date to do it in because of their priority in playing the Champions League fixtures.
Okay, so if you can't find a date, then out you go.
Sure, but that's it. That's a debate that I would have been raging and having a 3-hour program about tonight if we had been drawn away to Manchester City. But as we're drawn away to Wimbledon, it's a matter for another day. But it is ludicrous. It is ludicrous.
Yeah, of course it is. Lots of questions, as I say, coming in tonight, but we're not really going to get through it. I do want to ask this question, though, that Alan Little posed Malcolm last week. Gibbo wasn't with us, and it is a question for you, John. 17th of August versus Southampton was 50 years to the day of my first ever Tyne match, 1974. Tyne 3, Coventry 2. Have you got any memories of it, John? Now, did we ask you this last week?
Well, you've mentioned this last week.
So this was for Malcolm. Malcolm didn't have any memories.
Yeah.
Have you got any memories of that game, John, off the top of your head?
I haven't, and I should have, because we won. Mind, doesn't that tell you what year it was as far back as 74 for Coventry to be playing Newcastle in a league match and getting 2 or 3-2? I mean, Coventry fell off the end of the world since, bless them. No.
Was it Jimmy Hill?
Okay, here we go. I've managed to get this. I've managed to get this up here. 1974. This was his first game. 17th of August, 1974. Attendance 39,950. It was in Division 1. Newcastle's team that day was Willie McFall, Irvin Natras, Alan Kennedy, Jinky Jimmy Smith, Glenn Keeley, Pat Howard, Mickey Burns, the late great Tommy Cassidy, Supermac, John Tudor, and Terry Hibbert. The goal scorers on the day, the first goal was for Alan Kennedy in the 16th minute. Supermac, as always, netted in the 61st minute to make it 2-0. And Brian Alderson pulled one back for Coventry City in the 83rd. Pat Howard restored the 2-goal lead in the 85th minute. And there was a consolation goal from Tom Hutchison, in the 90th.
What a good player he was.
He was, wasn't he, John? Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was a good
fabulous player. Great on the ball.
And I tell you what, you named that Newcastle side there, and well done you for doing your research, Steve. But that was a good side. When you mention those, there's some good. I know I'm talking through biased eyes because I remember those guys in the pump, and were they all in the pump on that particular day? But we won. And Coventry in those days were a big club. I mean, we remember playing Coventry City regularly, and they were a top flight club. And they'd have fallen on very odd times in recent times. But Tommy Hutchinson was a terrific player, Scottish lad, a winger, huge, very tall for a winger. He was built a bit like, he was as tall as Isaac and playing out on the wing, but he could come in and finish. And I think, if I remember rightly, and all this is off the top of my head, I think he set a record in an FA Cup final that he scored for his side and he scored for the other side. He scored no J because the ball sliced off him, a shot sliced off him, and then he scored for his side.
Well, so if that was for Coventry, John, that would have been against Tottenham.
Yes, I think it was that match when that amazing game happened there. And he scored for both sides, but he was quality.
But Coventry, they had England players playing for them. Jeff Blockley, the centre half.
Who played for England, yes.
And I got to know him much later in life. Bill Glazier was the goalkeeper.
Yes. Well, he wasn't a name that leapt to my mind, but yes, now you've mentioned him, I do know the name. Absolutely.
Yeah, Bill Glazier, bless him.
You remember him because he kept sticking the ball past him.
Yes. I wasn't good for his back.
Good stuff. Alan Thompson said he remembers it well. I was watching cars outside the ground. I got into the ground for Nout and ran out of the ground, collecting my money for watching their cars later on. Great days as a kid. The substitute that day, by the way, there was only one back in those days. David Craig came on for Alan Kennedy. So,
the one name that didn't appear in the Newcastle side was Frank Clark. Alan Kennedy was in. All I can presume is that Frank was injured at the time because he left, I think, at the end of that season, didn't he?
He played in the cup final, of course, didn't he?
Yes.
Before.
900 watching live tonight. Thank you very much for your support. 400 on YouTube, 500 watching it on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, please jump over to YouTube, search NUFC Matters, hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. And I want to congratulate another Newcastle United England international today. John Tino Livramento has been called up for his first cap for the Nations League action next month. And he'll join Anthony Gordon and Nick Pope.
Great.
Who has been...
I'm filled to bits. I'm filled to bits for all three lads. Once you get a change of manager, you get a significant change in the squad often. I'm particularly, well, I'll come to Livramento in a minute, but I'm particularly pleased as well for Nick Pope, who got the cold shoulder. I know he got an injury after that, but he got the cold shoulder from Gareth. He was very much part of the England setup. He is deserved to be part of the England setup. When you look at the other goalkeepers that were getting in, like Henderson and Johnston, I mean, Pope's better than them. I'm delighted that he's in. And isn't it ironic, guys, that football, you cannot prevent the march of time in football. Time moves on. And here we are today, and we have 2 significant things happening. Kieran Trippier first announces the end of his England career. He's retiring from international football. And no sooner has he said that, than the England squad's announced, and the bloke who's threatening to take his position at his club, never mind his country, is selected for England, Livramento. You cannot stop the march, however talented you are, however wonderful player you are, and Trippier's been all those things, and bless him and thank you for that. But the march of time goes on. Livramento, he goes out of the England squad, having played in 6 of the 7 games during the Euros, but he knows a change of manager is going to be a change of scene. He's 34 this coming month, September. So he knows he's going out of the England squad. So he announces retirement. Good for him. It's under his terms. But it's amazing that the squad that's announced the same day promotes Livramento.
Isn't it? Yeah. Well done to him.
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant. But yes, it's a very poignant point, I think. There is Nick Pope, well done to him for getting into the squad as well. I'm getting the feeling about him that he's not as assured after coming back after this injury as he was before the injury.
Nick Pope, you mean?
Yeah, Nick Pope, yes. Yeah, I just don't feel that he is bossing his box in the way that he did. And he's getting put under pressure somewhat when crosses are coming over, and
seems a little bit frightened, doesn't he?
Yeah, he just doesn't seem to. He doesn't have that confidence in himself that he had when he first arrived. You know, that he didn't just box his penalty area. He was going sort of 10 and 15, 20 yards outside of the area and bossing it all there. Yeah. But now he's struggling to boss the 6-yard area, never mind anything else.
Well, I tell you what, he'll just say, let's keep it going, because he's just got back in the England squad.
Well, he's going into the England side. Yes, good for him. I hope that boosts his confidence, and it can do with many players, most of them. We should see a good reaction from that. Well done to him, though. It's good that he's back in. I personally have the feeling that the form that he was showing when he first joined Newcastle, he should have been the England goalkeeper at that time. I felt he was the best in the country.
We've got 6 goalkeepers, Malcolm, and the other 5 will never challenge him for the first team job at Newcastle, because it's Dubrovka who proved at the end of last season that he's not Premier League now. there's a unpronounceable Greek who anyhow didn't want and is going to try to get rid of double quick. There's a 37-year-old John Ruddy. There's Gillespie, bless him, who in 4 years has never played a Premier League game for us, etc.
Yeah.
So what we're even talking about, we're going to sign James Trafford from Burnley still, so would have 8 goalkeepers or 7 goalkeepers.
Sure. John, just as you're talking, I'm thinking, please, Newcastle United, promise us all that you never ever get into this damn mess that you got into back in June, where you had to take on board players that we just didn't want. What a ridiculous situation for a
Malcolm,
Premiership club.
May I say, and I've got to emphasise, this is only my opinion, not necessarily yours, Malcolm, or yours, Steve, or anybody else. But as I sit here now, 36 hours or 35 hours or whatever before the transfer deadline, have we got ourselves into another mess? We haven't got Gay over the line, and we've spent a month negotiating it. We haven't got a centre-half over the line. We haven't got an outside right over the line. We've got nobody over the line. This is on the verge of being a disastrous transfer window, Malcolm. Am I wrong?
It does. And also, John, when you think about it, that these opening games that have been played and others still to come, that we've played a right back at centre half, and we're playing a centre half who couldn't get in the Brighton side, unless he played left back. You know.
So you're in the Bournemouth side. You think of Kelly?
No. I'm saying no. I'm talking about Burn.
Oh right. Yeah.
When he was at Brighton, he couldn't get in the side at centre half. They played him at left back.
Well, that was a good move, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but I just looked at our back four over the last couple of games, and I thought, this is ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. And looking at that, John, if you were Gay, would you sign for Newcastle?
Yeah, I would, because I would think there's nobody going to take my place when I get there.
That's one way of looking at it. Yes.
But I tell you what, I see how what frightens me, I can see why we wanted Gay, but we've spent so much time on it where they're away from the end of the transfer window and we haven't got Gay. Who else do we get? Do we get another centre-half? Do we get an outside right? We've got 30 hours to find somebody to rescue a very dodgy summer. And if we don't rescue it, I tell you what, this squad is not deep enough to take us into the Champions League. I'm sorry, but it isn't.
We're a few injuries away from a catastrophe, yeah.
Is it good enough just to get us into Europe anyway that we can, John?
Possibly not. And is it good enough to win us? Is it good enough to win us a domestic trophy? Because the only way you make progress this season, you either A, get into the Champions League, B, get into Europe, or C, win the League Cup or the FA Cup.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, if we have another season like last season, I'm going to leave you on one thought. Do you think we will be capable of hanging on to Isaac, Gordon, and Bruno for another year if we haven't won a domestic trophy and we're not in Europe?
Sure, end of this season, and it'll have been 3 seasons,
and they'll go.
Yeah.
Somebody will go from that lot.
Good news before.
And once one goes, that you find that it starts to multiply.
Good news before we look at the Spurs game is that the pending rail strikes, which were hanging over everyone, not just football fans, but football fans in particular, because the strikes were planned for the weekend, have been called off. So that's that set of strikes every weekend between September and November have been called off tonight. Just been officially broken on Sky News there. No information as to why yet, but I'm sure we'll hear from the various representatives. But that's good news for those of you planning trips to see Newcastle United on the road and on the rails. Spurs at home this coming Sunday, 1:30 kick-off live on Sky Sports. And the team, of course, will follow. Got Eddie's press conference to learn absolutely nothing from tomorrow. We do know that Fabian Schär will serve the final game of his 3-game suspension for a red card against Southampton. As for Spurs, early team news, well, an ankle injury is still expected to keep Dominic Solanke out of this game. Rodrigo Bentancur and Mickey van de Ven and Destiny Udogie should be available to play. And Newcastle and Spurs have had exactly the same kind of start of the season. Both got 4 points after that opening 2 Premier League games. Spurs got a 1-1 draw at Leicester, and they won 4-0 at home to Everton. The referee this weekend is Robert Jones. We've had an eventful series of games involving this referee for the Liverpool official. All 3 games against Manchester United, 3-0 League Cup tie, which of course was an away win for us. The 2-3 away Premier League loss and the 1-0 home Premier League win, plus the 1-0 defeat at Manchester City and the 4-3 win over West Ham. VAR, which has been very kind to us so far this season, we love VAR at the minute, is Stuart Atwell. Okay, John, give us your views on this game and a prediction.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time we've played one of the big beasts in terms of the supposed Super Six. So this is a huge step up from the 3 games we've had, which have been against sides whose ambition has been no greater than mid-table Premier League. Spurs' ambitions are like ours. So this is a big step up. Having said that, it's the sort of Super Six team I want to play, because when you play Manchester City or you play Arsenal, or to a certain extent you play Liverpool, you know you're going to be under the cosh. Spurs give you a chance. Their front foot, Big Ange is a bit like Howe, he's a front foot manager, etc., etc. But they've been very good to us in recent years. They've allowed us to cosh them a couple of times, and you know, I'm very appreciative of that. I think they're vulnerable. They've got good players, and if you let them play, they will torture you. And if we only play in spasms, if we only play in occasional quarter hours, we'll get done. We've got to play for the 90 minutes. But if we do play for the 90 minutes, these are more vulnerable than the other top 6 clubs. Of that, there's no question. And because of that, and because we're at home, I don't take Southampton out of the equation. We're home to Southampton, but when you're down after half an hour to 10 men against 11 and it's 0-0, then you know it's going to be one heck of a fight for the last hour. So eliminate that. We're at home with the crowd behind us, with the crowd obsessive. We've done the same as them, and we're in terms of points 4, and we're still in the League Cup. So we're going to it with the advantage of being at home. We haven't got huge injuries. Willock is a dreadful thing, and I feel so sorry for the boy. It's untrue. Tonali, who we haven't really stayed with too much, but has been wonderful, and I think he'll be used from the bench, and he's going to be a terrific acquisition, and I think he's come back in a totally different frame of mind, and he's part of the family now, and that's a huge plus. I'm looking at Spurs on Sunday, and despite the apprehension, despite an awful summer, despite a terrible transfer window, I think Newcastle United will win. I think it'll only be by a goal. And by that, I don't mean 1-0. It could well be 2-1. I mean a goal difference. And I'm taking Newcastle to win. And if pushed on the score, probably 2-1.
2-1 for John. I'm going for a 1-1 draw. I think, again, Newcastle will manage to get something out of this game, but I don't think it's going to be a rip-roaring game. I think there's going to be a lot of, depending on how the transfer window goes, the atmosphere is going to be dictated by that. If we've got a couple of new signings to parade and Newcastle's fans are feeling upbeat and well up for it, then things might be a little bit different. But I think if we go into this game without anybody coming in or losing somebody, dare I say, it could be toxic. So a lot depends on what happens tomorrow. But Mal, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. How do you see this going?
Well, firstly, I'll repeat something I said much earlier in the programme, that we need to have a plan B to at some point in the 90 minutes against Tottenham. We can't just stick with a single way of playing at this level of football. If Newcastle United are able to score more than one goal, then I think we'll get a draw. I can see. I think Tottenham, they're a really good footballing side at the moment, and they score goals. And so I'm going to go for 2 each, and I just hope that we can knock more than one in, and not lose. The most important thing is don't lose, I think, on Sunday. So yeah, 2-2 for me, and it'll be an entertaining game. Of that, I'm very sure. But we need a plan B.
And I think there'll be a few jumpers over the fence as well, if it's not removed. Happy birthday to this motley crew: Stephen Carr, Celestine Babiaro, Patrick Van Arnholt, John Dong Thomason, and Tommy Wright, legend. Tommy, by the way, great bloke, top bloke. We'll be seeing him in January as well when me and Gibbo are doing the entertainers do. But yeah, they all share the same birthday today. So happy birthday, lads, all former players, some better than others. That's it. Me, Gibbo and Supermac will be back next Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning, slightly early one. Gibbo's away and I'm busy again next Thursday. So we'll all be back together again, 10 o'clock next Thursday morning. I'm back with the Amigos tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. Look forward to seeing you all then. But for now, Malcolm, Gibbo, thanks very much. Have a good weekend, chaps.
All right, and enjoy your football over the weekend, guys.
Take care, jump the fence, keep the faith.